Department of Emergency Management in Tallahassee and so forth. And so, as we heard yesterday on a virtual briefing for the staff, the storm was projected to take place in 2 phases, the first of which being today and tomorrow. And then, as we've all seen that track, it heads west into the Gulf, and then it was going to project north, and that's when potential impacts were going to head our way. And it continues to be a very unpredictable storm. So Chief Litschauer and Jake are going to fill us in on the latest and where the track is and what we're doing to relay the message to the public on what they need to be doing to get ready for the storm. So Jake, do we have any introductory remarks?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. We just wanted to, we were getting a lot of media inquiries, so we figured we would do a quick presser real quick. As you know, as Nick said a little bit earlier, this is a 2-phased approach between the state as well as our Emergency Operations Center. We're getting getting out of the first phase, where you can see just moments ago we dropped tropical storm and hurricane warnings that were in our area, and that's because Eta is moving out of the area and more into the Gulf. As this gets out into the Gulf and continues to meander around, this will be a week-long event that we continue to monitor where it's going as it continues to firm up its track. A couple of things to keep in mind as we move through this. It will be a slow-moving event lasting all week as we continue to monitor it, and residents should make sure that they continue to listen to local media, as well as our public safety social media and the county social media, as this storm, because it's meandering as it is, continues to be highly unlikely if we have a firm track on it until later in the week. So we're going to be moving into the second phase of tracking the storm, where it will eventually turn northeast, and where that turns, that's what we'll keep an eye on. So I'll turn it over to Steve to go through some quick slides, and then we can answer any questions you guys might have.
All right, thank you, Director. Good morning, everybody. I'll run through some quick slides of actions we're taking, and then entertain some questions. As the Director just said, some good news for us at the moment was the warnings and watches have decreased.
Steve, you lost your audio.
Okay, there we go. So as the Director says, the watches and warnings have decreased. The Emergency Operations Center is under level 2 virtual activation. What that means is that we're have just a few people in the EOC, and that we're doing our briefings by Zoom with all our different partners. We're having daily briefings, and those partners go from public works, utilities, law enforcement, fire, etc. We're holding those daily. We're also having daily conference calls with the National Weather Service, National Hurricane Service, and the Florida Division of Emergency Management, along with all our neighboring counties. Just a couple key messages to the public. As always, have a disaster kit, have a plan in place. But for this storm, as we go through the windy portions of it, pick up loose items around their yards, those fold-up chairs, grills outside. Make sure they fill up their vehicles with fuel, that in case we do lose power, they don't run out of gas. And again, in case there's power loss, go grocery shopping and stock up on their groceries. Sandbag locations currently are in Holmes Beach at the City Hall. That's a self-service available 24/7. Also on Longboat Key at the Broadway Beach Access. Again, a self-service will be available this afternoon on. And as we see the need, others throughout the county will be announced as they become available. Always know your level, and sandbag locations can be found on our homepage at those links. So if people want to check, they can go to our homepage and look for where sandbags and what level of evacuation. We're not anticipating any, but that's always good information to have. Always do Manatee Ready at 888-777, and we have instituted a new Alert Manatee, which again can be found at our website and for people to register. So always stay tuned to the local media, our Facebook, Twitter, and so forth. But in short, just monitor the weather through the various media outlets. Stay vigilant. As we can see, this storm is changing by the not day, not hour, but almost by the minute. So just be prepared. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Nick for any questions.
Steve, you can take off the sharing screen.
Steve, you want to also include an update on the, you're in regular contact with the COVID-19 testing site at the convention center and what we heard from that group this morning?
Sure thing. We're involved in our testing site there at the Bradenton Area Convention Center. They are on our morning briefing calls. Obviously, they took down their tents because of the wind, but they are currently open, plan to be open as long as they can. And adapt to the weather as most as they can. They may shut down for a few minutes during a heavy rain, but they're planning on being open, and we are in constant communication with them.
Very good. So I'll just add one more thing to the remarks that Director Sauer and Chief Litschauer delivered, and that's to say that these two guys will deliver an update to the county commissioners tomorrow. I don't know if we have a time scheduled for that yet, but I don't know that we're planning to have any other media briefings between now and then. So be sure and if we've got a time certain, we'll let you know now. And if not, we'll try to let you know tomorrow. But that would probably be our briefing for tomorrow. Is there any more specifics on that in that regard, Jake or Steve?
As we give the COVID-19 update to the Board of County Commissioners, we will then move into a local state of emergency for Manatee County with the Board of County Commissioners right after. And that's scheduled for 2 p.m. tomorrow.
So you are still planning to proceed with the state of local emergency, or it's kind of in a holding pattern like everything else, depending on the track of the storm?
We will continue to seek a local state of emergency tomorrow with the Board of County Commissioners as we move into phase 2 of tracking the storm.
Very good. Thank you. Now, Rachel or I will unmute. If you can raise your hand in the chat to let us know if you guys have questions, we will unmute you at that time.
They can unmute themselves, Nick.
Okay. Sam, you want to go first?
Sure. Yes. I know that at the beginning of hurricane season, we talked a lot about COVID-19 and how that was going to affect people's preparations and what they should be looking for this year. You know, as people are starting to put together those hurricane kits, what else should they have in them this year? And I mean, like you said, we're not planning to open shelter locations at this point, but this should be something that people are thinking about now, right? That we don't want to overcrowd those shelters, try to come up with a different plan in these next few days.
Yeah, so definitely as we move through the rest of hurricane season, which goes through the rest of the month, they should continue to plan for COVID-19 along with that. So if we do have to open shelters throughout this month or the rest of hurricane season, obviously there is still an impact with COVID-19 and sheltering. What the public can do, though, is focus on having an alternate plan to go to a shelter. It still remains one of the last places you want to be during COVID-19 or really during any evacuation. All they have to do is go to mymanatee.org and know their evacuation zone, know where they live, and if they live in an evacuation zone, get with friends, family members that are outside of that evacuation zone, might even be still in Manatee County, might be in next county away, and go there instead. As we said, we're not planning on opening any shelters for Eta, but we still have the rest of the month to go, and they should have an alternate plan instead of planning on going to an evacuation shelter.
And I know at the earlier were running low on shelter space. We were looking for additional shelter options. Did we ever find any of those? Did we ever come up with other options, or are we still looking at we're going to have less shelter space available?
There's still less shelter space available. Us around and actually throughout the rest of the state because of COVID-19 and the increased distancing capacity that we have. Shelter space is at a premium, and that's why we encourage everyone to know their evacuation zone and have a plan to go with friends, family members, or an alternate source besides an evacuation shelter.
Okay, thanks, Jake. Nick, I think I'm good.
I got a question.
Go ahead, Tim.
Hey, so if the storm takes the track that goes into the Big Bend and we're in the right front quadrant, I mean, that's our worst scenario. Can you talk about that and maybe what we could see?
Yeah, so as we go through this week and we go into that second phase we talked about, this first phase we're getting into getting out of now as the storm moves out of the Keys and the Miami, South Florida area, gets into the Gulf. It's a wide, large, messy storm, and it's going to go back and forth and back and forth, and where it lands, unfortunately, as we look at it today, up into that Big Bend area, that northeast quadrant of the storm still remains the messy part of the storm. So we could look at some possible storm surge in the area, not anything of great concern, but also some wind gusts, heavy rain as that messy side of the storm, the northeast storm, where it tracks into Florida, that will be our main concern.
Thanks, Tim. Any other questions from Tim?
I'm good.
Hi, Kim.
There. So I'm not sure who would be best to answer this, but I know beach renourishment is also happening right now in Manatee County as it is in the city of Sarasota. What is happening with that right now? Is it stalled? Have the barges been moved to safety? Can you talk about that?
Kim, I'll check on that and I'll get back with you on that. I do know that they monitor the storm as well, and they shut down at a certain time in order to prepare themselves and that equipment that's out on the beach during the beach renourishment right now. But I don't have a definitive answer for you, and I'll get back to you on that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll just echo that and just say that whenever there's a strong storm that is approaching, Kim, they'll demobilize pretty quickly out there and get the equipment to a safe staging area. And that's probably the case for this storm. We will verify with our Parks Department that's overseeing the core project with the contractor there, and just to say that the majority of the large renourishment project, I think, is mostly complete. There was some restocking of Coquina Beach, I believe, that was to restore some of the losses from Irma and Hermine. But I think that's being demobilized. We will double check that for you guys. Unmute yourself, Kim.
Sorry, I apologize if this is a repetitive question. I was out with Sarasota shooting some tree removal also during this. Just a question, if you haven't already answered it. A storm like this, what is the biggest threat for our area, especially the coastal communities that we have here?
So as you know, we talked about a little bit it's a wide storm that's going to meander out in the Gulf. So as it slowly approaches to where it's going to land in Florida, we could be looking at localized flooding, wind gusts, especially out on the barrier island areas. That's why sandbags are available out on our barrier islands now. And we expect some localized flooding should the storm continue to move northeast, depending on where it lands. Now, if it takes a sharp turn, these storms are unpredictable, especially when they get out in the Gulf. If it takes a strong turn, then we're really looking at storm surge and increase in storm surge and possibly some evacuations. But as we have it predicted now in the National Hurricane Center, we're looking at the Big Bend area. It is a wide storm, so as it makes its slow turn northeast into Florida, that northeast quadrant that is the messy side of the storm will affect some of the barrier islands, low-lying areas for localized flooding.
I'm good. Thank you all.
Okay. Anybody else have questions? You're free to unmute yourself and hey, Mark.
Hey, Nick. Has the schedule changed at all at the COVID testing place at the convention center?
Yeah, not at this time. They were on with a call with us earlier this morning, and they reported that their plans are to stay open, and occasionally throughout the summer, through any testing period, they're closing very short periods if winds or rains are strong, but they note that once the worst is past, they're quick to reopen. I was actually at the CVB earlier this morning for something unrelated, and I saw a long line of people being tested. So there's still high demand, and their intentions are to stay open as long as the weather allows them to. And if they have to close for a short period, they'll reopen as quickly as they can.
One other thing, are there any particular parts of, I mean, you mentioned the barrier islands as, being possibly at risk. Any areas more inland that maybe should take some extra steps to prepare for this?
I think, Mark, you're asking any specific areas inland that should take prepare. As we mentioned, everyone should be looking around their yard for loose lawn ornaments, lawn furniture, items that could be easily blown away, as we do expect as the storm continues to move through the Gulf. Gusty winds and some sustained winds. There is low-lying areas throughout Manatee County that those that live in those areas know those areas. We don't expect flooding inland and low-lying areas as much as the barrier islands right now, but that track could always change, and as it does, we will reassess where we need to do sandbag locations.
Thanks, Mark. All right, so everybody appears to still be muted. If you have questions, now's the time to ask them. Just unmute yourself and ask away. Okay, so the big takeaway this morning, just moments before this call started, we received news out of the regional weather service, Tampa, that Manatee County is no longer in a warning or a watch area for Tropical Storm Eta, but it remains very unpredictable and unorganized, messy storm that's going to bring wind and rain to our area, no doubt. We've already seen a lot of those gusts, and my wife actually woke up in the middle of the night. She heard stuff blowing so hard she brought in all the plants and pillows on our furniture. So that's the word today to folks to watch closely. We'll send text announcements to our residents if anything changes, and again, we're prepared to brief the board tomorrow at 2 following the regular COVID briefing that Director Sauer delivers to the board. He's got a local state of emergency prepared for the board to consider tomorrow. And with that, if there are no other questions, any closing remarks, Director Sauer or Chief Litschauer?
No.
Jake, what was that?
Not at this time. I'm good. Thank you.
You good?
Hey,
And
Nick, quick question. Since I'm at the beginning of the meeting, you mentioned that you were told that we're no longer under a watch or warning. Who did that come from?
So that comes from the National Hurricane Center. We expected that, though, as this is a two-phased approach storm, and as it moves out into the Gulf, we expected those to go away. Now, when it starts making its northeasterly turn, those will more than likely come back into play in our area northward into Big Bend.
all right. Well, thank you, everybody. Again, no plans for a media briefing unless things change dramatically tomorrow, and we will be updating the board at 2, so watch on our live stream. We'll be streaming that on Facebook and also at mymanatee.org/MGA. Was there somebody that had one last remark? Okay, if not, thank you everybody for dialing in, and if you have questions, feel free to email me or text, and we'll get back to you as soon as we have some answers. Kim, I'll track down that information about the beach renourishment as well. Thanks everybody, have a good day and stay safe.